How's it going, everyone? This is Frank Cavone of Mirth Films, and today we're taking an in-depth look at the DJI Osmo Action. So DJI released the Osmo Action a couple years ago to compete with GoPro's GoPro Hero 7 Black. At the time, GoPro released 3 different versions of the 7, but the Black was the highest quality. It shot up to 4K 60 frames per second, and that's exactly what this Osmo Action does. But for the longest time, DJI mainly focused on making drones and pretty much establishing their Osmo line, which were these gimbal cameras, which ended up developing into things such as the Osmo Pocket. First thing I noticed about this camera is I love the way it's built, and obviously there's a front screen on the actual camera. With the GoPros, there hasn't been a front screen until the GoPro Hero 9, which now it seems like GoPro is playing catch up with the DJI Osmo Action line. What I would be using something like this for mainly is either putting this on a drummer, so I have a nice up-close drummer cam without having to wheedle in between all the other different musicians that could be on stage at that time. Or I might even use this to go skateboarding. Skateboarding is one of my favorite things to do, and action cameras have that nice fisheye look, and that's probably the 2 uses that I would actually use this for. So the camera came in this nice little box, and included in the box was a USB 3.0 cable, a couple mounts, the battery, and then the mounting cage. So turning the camera on, the first thing I noticed, it has a nice huge display on the back, and this touchscreen is amazing. I have had so many issues with the GoPro touchscreen not being responsive in situations where, quite frankly, time is on the line, and I feel like sometimes the GoPro has failed me with just being able to go through different menu options, things working right internally, opposite from the recording. But also, what I really love about this camera is that you can change the lenses on the front. That's right. So, you know, lenses get scratched, and DJI knows that, and it's expensive to replace a full camera. And starting in the GoPro Series 8, you can't replace this anymore. And it's things like these that make DJI such a great camera maker, because they know what the videographer needs. So to access the DJI Osmo Action's front screen, all you have to do on the back of the camera is tap the touchscreen twice, and then the screen appears on the front. And literally just as easy as that, tap it twice again, and the screen makes its way back to the back. The camera itself has a bunch of different functions, and we're just gonna start with video. As far as video goes, this thing shoots up to 4K 60 frames per second, and the highest frame rate it goes is 1080p at 240 frames per second. That's a lot. 1080p is still usable today, and especially if you're shooting something that is really fast action, like skateboarding, like dirt biking, snowboarding, skiing, whatever it may be. So the Osmo Action has a time-lapse mode, it has a slow-mo mode, it has photo mode, which you can take raw photos up to 4,000 by 3,000 pixels, which is not bad. I mean, I'd still use my cell phone to take photos, but it's cool to have that option. And it also has built-in Rocksteady. What is Rocksteady? Rocksteady is their version of digital image stabilization. GoPro calls it Hypersmooth, but Rocksteady, I gotta say, is exactly what it is. Rocksteady. We are just testing the audio of the DJI Osmo Action. I gotta say, the Rocksteady is pretty rocksteady. Audio, So to test out the digital image stabilization in the Osmo Action, we took our dog Iris for a walk, just to not only see if we can keep up with her, but to see if this stuff actually works, and we'll let you check it out right now. Diving into some of these shots, one of the shots where I'm running with Iris, it actually doesn't even look like my camera's bouncing up and down, and I couldn't believe it. The best setting to use the Rocksteady is 2.7K at 30 frames per second. That gives you the best results, and it blew my mind. This camera is waterproof up to 36 feet. I personally would not put this camera in the water if I didn't have a reason to, but I actually did a time lapse of just some of the snow that we were getting here in upstate New York, and I didn't even have to worry about having this camera outside. I even had a battery pack plug in to the camera itself to keep it continuously charging while I'm shooting, and I didn't even worry about it. The time-lapse mode in the Osmo Action is also very versatile. You're able to use it in 4K, you're able to do 1080p time lapses, and you can even adjust the intervals and also the duration of how long you want your time lapses to be. It makes this very easy and flexible, and for those who maybe struggle with doing time lapses using a string of photos, this is built all in by itself, and when you're done and you hit stop recording, your time lapse is complete. I also really like the way this camera shot slow-mo footage. Just to test it out, I made some pizza and just was spinning the pie, and one thing I noticed that it didn't drop any frames and it just looked really clean all the way through. Speaking of low light with this camera, the low light is not really the best, but that also being said, all of the GoPros don't really have the best low light capabilities anyway due to the sensor size, so it's pretty comparable to the GoPro Hero 7, and the reason why I keep on comparing it to the Hero 7 is that's because that's when this camera came out. Again, this camera does have a photo option. As you can see, some of the photos that I did take, they're okay. I mean, they're nothing I would really print, but I mean, if you need to take a photo really quickly and this is the camera you have on you, it's the best camera you have on you because you need something to take a photo with. But I personally would use my smartphone over this camera, especially because even with the wide angle view on the new iPhone 12 Pro Max, it just looks a lot more crisp, and I think the sensor's a little better in that too when it comes to photo. But again, you know, this does take photos, so it's cool that they continue to keep that option in these cameras. My only complaint with this camera specifically is that this doesn't have an HDMI out feature. So if I wanted to use this to do live streaming, it wouldn't be possible. The GoPro Hero 7 actually does have that option. There is an HDMI out. I love this camera. I can't stop using it. It even has changed the way I shoot. We just wanted to share with you that the DJI Osmo Action in 2021 is still a viable option. You can get the DJI Osmo Action for about $200 now. And I even got it on sale for $150. So this camera is dropping in price. And even on DJI's website, check out their refurbished page because you can get cameras that are refurbished, which are like brand new cameras, for just a little bit cheaper. If you want us to continue doing stuff like this, where we're reviewing products, we would love to keep on making videos like this for you. So please stay tuned to mirth-films.com. Follow us all across the board when it comes to social media, and keep up to date with us with all the different live streaming that we're doing here in 2021. Thank you guys for tuning in.